won't. Well, they're not attendees, so they can still. So as you know, and hopefully you guys can hear us and see us well, this is going to be laid back. We just want to relax, just talk about stuff that all of us have dealt with, and we all have been children. So this is about healing your inner child. And what I would like to start off with, what is important, I would just want to know, like, what does it mean to heal your inner child? What does that mean to you? Because that might mean something different to other people. So if you can type it in or you can share, it will be easier if you share as like a conversation. You don't have to turn your camera on if you don't like. But what does it mean to you when you hear to heal your inner child? I'm just seeing if anyone is going to type anything in. Well, what I like to, and you'll learn this about me if you continue to join these wellness happy hours, I like to make things simple. I think a lot of times when we think about our emotion, our feeling, our childhood, our adulthood, our relationships, sometimes we make it more complex. So I like to give analogies. So when I think of healing your inner child, I think of a wound, like a trauma that happened. And it can be nothing major. It could be your friend moving away, your best friend as a child, and you felt lonely because you didn't feel that connection again. Or it could be something even deeper as your father wasn't in your life. Or maybe a parent, passed away early, or a grandparent, moved away and you didn't have that relationship with them as you once did. But I like to think, like, when we talk about healing your inner child, is almost like a wound that partially healed. It's almost like, I think of a gash in your leg, and that you never got the stitches that you needed for it to heal, but you have the skin, as the body will do. You grow some skin, thin skin over it. And at certain times in your life, something can happen that can trigger that wound again. So it's almost like a wound that was never really healed, but your body or your life moved on. So it's a sensitive part that we haven't dealt with in our childhood. So that's what healing the inner child. We're going to talk about that wound and how it affects you later on in life. Kai, did you want to add anything to that? I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. I'm like, yeah, I'm on mute. So I think that's a good start. I think that we do have some other folks that have joined. Looks like 2 other people have joined.
Yes.
So people may start to kind of file in as we start to have the conversation.
Okay.
But no, I think that that's a great start in opening dialogue to our conversation. If anybody who's just joined, Shevel was just kind of talking a little bit about what it means to begin that process of healing your inner child. And then we do have some examples of what that could look like if you maybe are in the process of doing the work, or maybe have not begun doing the work yet. So Shevel, do you want me to go over that, or do you want to?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so starting off, maybe, are these like all ladies that we have with us? So maybe the person who maybe needs to do some healing work with inner child, it could show up, not that this is always the case, but it could show up with someone, maybe male or female, who only dates older people, right? So if it's a woman, maybe she only dates older men, and maybe if it's a man, only dates older women, maybe if that's the situation. And sometimes that can occur because of something that happened in that person's childhood, right? Their relationship with their father or mother. And so they're kind of looking towards that person, even though it's a romantic relationship, they're still looking for that connection that they would have with a mom or a dad, which obviously that can complicate a relationship. So does anyone have any thoughts on that as being one of the examples? And if there's anything that anyone would like to add, please, you can turn your mic on and do it that way. But let us know at least your thoughts on that one, that kind of like dating choices. Any thoughts on that? Okay, so we have revealing brokenness.
Karen, you can turn your microphone and talk if you want. I'm reading your. I can read it. Mine show up with overcompensating with my sons as my biological parents were not there. That's what's shared. Revealing brokenness.
Sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you just wanted us to type it in.
Oh, you can. It doesn't matter. We are. I know someone else wrote. I noticed my inner child wounds come out a sneaky relationships. And I'm trying to make this bigger so I can see the entire question. Okay, sneaky relationship. Gotcha. LOL. Right, and that's what we was talking about when like I said, this is a wound that was not dealt with, emotionally wound that's not dealt with, and it peeks through in our adulthood. You will see it in different areas of your life, and you can think about yourself, you can think about your coworkers, you can think about that friend, and it can peek through. Like Kai said, one could be, maybe your father wasn't there, you never had that male figure, and you look for that, not realizing when you're dating older men. And some people might be attracted to older men, so I don't want to put the facade out that you only date older men because you're missing your dad or you're looking for a dad. That you attracted to who you're attracted to. But this is, these traumas particular to whomever it affects. But also when you look at people seeking to be in any type of relationship, some people, and Kai and I talk about it, I have a friend, I love her to death, but she needs to be in a relationship. She needs to be. And then once she's in this relationship, she cuts everybody out. We don't hear from her. And then when she calls, in my head, I'm like, she's not in that relationship. And then I answer the phone and talk to her, and then she's like, I'm not in that relationship. And I'm like, I know, you know what I mean? But, for her, she lacked that closeness in relationships because her parents, they were there in her life, but they were busy. They were working. Her father was a surgeon in a big hospital in Philadelphia. Her mom was a CEO of a hospital. So both of her parents worked very, very hard to get those positions and maintain on top. But they had a child, and she was the only child. And they neglect to give her the attention she needs. So she seeked that, and she realized that now. We've talked recently, but it can come out in different ways in your relationship. Or, you think of another way. We talked about Kai with relationships, because you can have friendships. It's not always romantic. It can come in your girlfriend, boyfriend friendships. Did you want to mention any, Kai?
Yes. So if you have, again, as Shevel said, if you have friendships with people, maybe that you tolerate being treated a certain way by people that you're friends with, maybe even by family members. A lot of that comes from our childhood, because we first learn about relationships growing up, right? We learn how to kind of show up in the world by the people that are around us. So we kind of look to mom, dad, or whoever that figure is in our lives that's kind of holding space as mom and dad. We kind of look to them as guidance as to who we should be, how we should behave. And so it's not only how our parents or whoever that guardian treats us, but it's also how we see them interact with the other adults around us. And that trains us and teaches us how we need to show up. So, for example, if growing up, and this was a biggie for me, growing up, it was like this validation, like I just needed to feel validated, right? And so because that wasn't happening at home, I was seeking that outside of myself. So that means that whether I got into certain relationships, always wanting that person to see my value, see my worth, and trying to, go above and beyond. And I would have friends that say, Kai, like, you doing a lot right now. for like nothing. So why are you doing all this? And it was like, I didn't know, but I was doing that to get that other person, whether it be friends or in a romantic relationship, to see my value, to see my worth, and to also not only see it, but then either to say it or somehow I could feel like they realize that my value, what my value is, because I didn't see it for myself. So as Chevelle said, when we started up, that was a wound that I had that continued to get, I guess you could say, infected, because I never addressed it. Because I didn't even know it was a problem. I just was like, well, this is just how I am. And it's like, no, something led you to be this way. So that's one thing that could be happen, where you always looking to get validated by others, a people pleaser. You can't say no. If you say no, it's just like, oh God, I just told somebody no. Like, and you feel really bad about it. You feel, what is that person going to think about me? So those are other wounds that those are outcomes that can happen because of an issue that happened in your childhood that wasn't addressed, where you were taught how to show up in the world was to appease other people. And even though you may not feel happy about that, you rather deal with whatever comes with being that people pleaser versus having somebody upset with you. So that's kind of like the people pleaser. If anybody can relate to that, please let me know, because that can feel like a burden and can be very draining. And you can end up staying in relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, for a long time, because you don't want to leave the person because they're going to get upset. So it's like, if I leave them, they're going to get upset, even though you're miserable, you've emotionally checked out. You're like, but I got to stay there because of this need to people please. And also because they have to realize my value. I want them to see my value. So another thing that we talked about, and I'm going to hand this over to Chevelle, is if someone suffers from maybe abandonment issues, and how maybe that can show up in, again, romantically or just in your relationships in general.
Mm-hmm. There's a question here I just want to talk about before we go to the abandonment. Someone typed in, my ex and I work a lot. My 6-year-old only child said she wants a boyfriend so she can have someone with her at all time. It looked like an early sign of codependency. Any advice for healing this early? So, what I can say is that one of the things is to have that conversation, because obviously your 6-year-old is a very smart kid. Mm-hmm. And you would have, what I would do, I have 3 kids, by the way, is have a kid appropriate or age appropriate conversation and ask, like, if you had a boyfriend, what would you do? Would you play a game? And, just see where your, is it your daughter? Let me see, I'm trying to see what it says. I don't know, see where your child mind is. And then if your child is telling you this, I think you already got a heads up, because you're not wondering what your child is thinking. So, mm-hmm. Schedule dates with your kids. I do that. Actually, you might, some people tell me, well, my older kid, he's 25, he think it's corny, but I think it's good. I actually created a date book for my kids. So for Christmas, including my husband, everybody got a date book. And you have 1 free lunch with mom. You have go to the movie ticket with mom. You have pick any activity with mom. Of course, my daughter want to go shopping, so I really have to spend money when I do that. But I think, I try to create a time just dedicated for my child. If it's the oldest son that's 25, or the 19-year-old son, or my 13-year-old daughter, and I've done that always because I want them to feel special. I want them to know you're important to me, and I can take an hour out of my day to do this with you. And I think that's just, you're doing a lot, because your kids watching you, they're mimicking you. And trust me, I understand about, being busy, working. I was getting my master's at the same time, and then I was married and had 3 kids. Trust me, you're like, where do you find time? But even if it's like when they go to bed, sitting there cuddling and reading a book, it's always not about the quantity, it's the quality of time you have when you spend with your kid. And I can think back, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I can think back at times when, you know, my dad or my mom would do things with me and it was small, but, you know, in my whatever age, you know, I'm like, I remember that. And that meant a lot to me. And I remember that feeling that I got as a kid. And I want my kids to have that same feeling, you know. So I would say that, you know, just carve out a time and ask your kid, what do you want to do? I mean, it could be something so small. It could be like walk to the end of the block and you tell me about your day and I'm just going to listen. I just want to hear about your day. Or as I like to do, which is inexpensive, get, you know, piece of paper, you know, that you were going to shred and turn it around, put some color on it and do a date book, or, you know, mommy and me, or whatever it is. Those type of things will add up and it will help build your kid character, and it will teach your kids things about themselves, or and it will help them also when they have children. So hopefully that answered your question. Kai, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that was a great response. I love that date book. And I think I do not have children. So let me just come right out and say I do not have any children. So I'm going to, so I'm speaking from an only child perspective because I am the only child. So I think what Shevel said as far as it's the little things that matter, it really is true. Being the only child, the big thing for me with two parents that worked a lot was just them prioritizing time that we did have together. And I think that's what's so important. So even though you do work a lot, as Shevel said, if you can kind of put aside that time and say, this is our time, no interruptions, and you keep that commitment. I think the problem comes if you schedule it and it keeps getting moved around or it gets canceled. And then your child may feel like I'm no longer a priority, not understanding like the bigger picture is like maybe mommy and daddy's hours change. And all they know is I was supposed to meet with mommy on Tuesday at noon and now she says no, and this keeps happening. So I would say if you're able to, when you do this, which I think is awesome, I love that date book idea because that way it's on your calendar. And if there's a way that you can just really commit to that, because that always signals to your child, your baby, that, okay, this is a priority for me, it's important for me, and I want to make sure I keep this commitment to you. And that also shows your child the importance of when someone makes a commitment to you, that the importance of keeping it. So you're already kind of getting him or her in that way of thinking. If I say I'm going to do something, I should always follow through and do it. Now, understanding sometimes circumstances come up and, you know, you can't, you know, sometimes things happen, but if you can kind of just have that conversation. That's one thing Shevel and I had talked about before, the importance of having a conversation with our children, explaining to them what's going on in a way that they can understand, again, age appropriate. But just explaining to them if the date has to get changed, maybe explain why, but just always understanding the value of keeping your commitments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were talking about abandonment, was it? That's what we left off on. So abandonment, which, you know, can be a deep wound that haven't healed because it was never addressed in your life. So I look at, you know, that could be a death of a family member, that can be a parent, you know, separating of parents and leaving. And sometimes that can come out like Kai said, you accept any relationship or you fear or have fear of commitment. That's another side of it, fear of commitment. And I know we're going to talk about side pieces yet, like side chicks or side dudes, but also with fear of commitment, you can have someone that are so fearful of commitment in a relationship that they're okay being the side person. Or they get into relationships, and when that person wants to really connect with them, like move to another level, maybe get engaged or get married, you self-sabotage it. And that could be fear of commitment. And I've seen people in this and not realizing that it's deeper than that. You know, it's deeper that you get into, every time you get into a relationship, you do something that sabotage the relationship, you know, and it's like, you know, Is it that fear of, if I fully commit myself, you're going to abandon me? Or is it fear of, I feel that I'm not worthy of this? This is too good to be true. So if you really love me, let me try this and see if you'll stay with me. I mean, it could be various things. And that's a part of, it could be some undealt with feelings in your childhood. I don't know if you want to go into the side piece, Kai, or
Yeah, I do have one question. Because of past experiences, I stay shut out a lot because I feel I won't be understood. And as a result, at times I feel as an adult, when I do speak, I can't with conviction unless I'm angry and feel people don't understand me.
yeah. And I think right now you did the first step of actually on the path of healing, because I always said, when I used to do group counseling, I used to be in direct care. I did individual counseling, group counseling for almost 20 years. And then I decided to change my career. But one of the things I always will tell my patient is that you can't change what you don't acknowledge, right? You ever had people that you tell them that, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm like, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing that. And then we tell them and expect for them to change their behavior, but they're not going to change their behavior until they acknowledge it, right? So I think right there, you acknowledging it is the step, because you can't change what you don't know. And I think one of the things, and actually you're going to get something, what is it, 5 tips on inner healing. You're going to get that after this, after tonight. And these are steps that you can work on. And I think you can take like little steps, I guess if you're in a conversation, if something comes up and you don't agree with it, just say, that's something I don't agree with. Or if you're in a relationship, I think honesty, because a lot of time we feel that people know what we're feeling and going through, and they don't. So acknowledge that, let somebody know, like, no, I don't agree with that, or I feel this way. I've learned that in my own relationship. Sometimes I expect my husband to be a psychic and expect him to know when he has pissed me off, or he said something I didn't like, or know that I'm feeling sad and I want, you to give me a hug. Well, if I don't say it, how will he know? So it's like, now I have these feelings, and I have these feelings because whatever I'm going through now, I feel he's not even acknowledging me because I have these feelings. So I even have even more feelings, and then nothing is never being addressed. And I think, talking about it, so whatever relationship is, that's an intimate relationship, romantic relationship, or if that's a friendship. And you said that you feel you won't be understood. Maybe that's the feeling you have, but if you speak your truth, you will be understood, because you're letting somebody know how you feel. Now, we can't control their response to it, but you at least have to start that step. It's like, okay, this is how I know when I talk or when I'm in a conversation, I feel someone don't understand me. Now I'm letting you know how I feel, and maybe, start that way, telling people, and because shutting down is not going to solve anything. It can create a bigger issue, and it can come to the point in a friendship or romantic relationship, it can really, damage a relationship because the person don't have a clue what is going on, or they're getting upset because they don't understand what you're feeling. So I really believe in any relationship is communication. As you know, I'm a talker, as you can see here. But, honestly, on a personal level, I wasn't always this way. I was always a communicator, but I didn't always tell you how I felt. And I didn't always tell you how you felt because, in the household I grew up, it didn't matter how you felt. Is what they said, and that was it, And so, and when I did really share what I felt, it was out of anger, which no one is listening to you. They're going to look at you. How they looked at me, I should say, is just being an emotional person. All you want to do is yell because you're upset. And what it was built up stuff over time that I wasn't being heard on how I felt. And it came to a point in my life that I said, you know what, I can't do this because I'm always, you know, feeling like I'm angry about something. You know, I have to deal with this. And it started with little things like, you know, with your girlfriends, you would talk, and if something bothered you, I spoke on it. Like, I don't agree with that. And you have to accept, you know, you can say how you feel, and some people will accept it, some people don't, but at least you got it out, you know. And eventually, you know, that self-work will get you to a point that you're like, you know what, I'm going to let people know how I feel, and I'm not going to shut down, because when I shut down, the only person I'm hurting is myself. And it doesn't allow you to move on, and whatever that is. And that can manifest itself into other things that can affect you professionally, you know, romantically, or just, you know, with friendships. So hopefully that is helpful. Let's see, someone said, true, I guess when people don't accept it, I shut down and feel invalidated. Yeah. And that's the thing. You know, I think one of the things you have to realize, you only in control of who? You. We can't control the world. You know, I wish I did. I wish I could control the lottery, because I would be a millionaire right now. But you know, I can't. And that's the beauty part of it. You only can control you, and you only can be responsible for you. And I think when you set those expectations up, and people see that, and you're sticking to those expectations, they're going to say, you know what? I know what I can say and what I can't say to her. Or I know what she's confident in, how she feels about something, you know. And then you have to also, and I don't know if we're going to talk about this, I don't want to go too far. Sometimes we have, in relationships, when we have these wounds not dealt with, when we have these friendships, sometimes we seek out friends who, it's almost like I don't know if you ever heard of self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe in something, and then it manifests itself to come true. Sometimes we might feel invalidated, and you unconsciously seek these relationships for people to fulfill that unhealthiness, if that makes sense. So you can have, you know, friends who like disregard everything you say, and you're like, what the heck, how do I keep finding these people? And what it is almost like you drawing these people in and not even realizing it, you know. And that's that self-work, that self-discovery with yourself. And when you do that, you become stronger emotionally, and you start setting those expectations, and people will see it. They're going to say, and I can tell you, because I am one of these people that had to do the work, and I'm still working on myself, you know. People are like, wow, you've changed. And I'm like, I didn't change. What do you mean I changed? They see it, you know. They can tell that you're changing, which is a good thing if you're changing to work on things that make you a better person. Okay, so what's the next thing, Kai? I don't want to.
No, that was good. I think that's so important, Chevelle, what you said, because it is, okay, Shirley said, thank you. I think what you said was so key, because what you're looking at is patterns of behavior, right? So when we keep saying that you see what's going on in your romantic relationships, your friendships, at work, because you're seeing a pattern, there's like this common denominator that's kind of flowing through all these different relationships. And so the beautiful thing is, once you start doing that self-work and start looking at, what did I experience as a child that maybe I haven't begun to heal from, that's starting to manifest now in my adult life? Once you start going there, you're starting to get to the root of issues. And so when you start getting to the root, then you can start changing the outcome. And getting to the root, as someone who was doing the healing work, continues to do the healing work, it's not easy, right? As Chevelle and when we were talking offline, it's like sometimes you have to own certain things. You have to hold yourself accountable for certain things. Like it's not always easy, but it is very liberating. So I think the powerful part is knowing that you yourself have the power, as Chevelle said, like only thing you can control is you. So you have the power to begin to change those relationships by you doing your own healing work, because that's going to affect how you show up in the world, how you correspond with other people. It's going to be a domino effect. And sometimes what happens when you start saying no, or you start kind of coming into a more healthier, I guess you could say healthier version of yourself, everybody that was around you may not be celebrating that new person with you, right? You may get some people that say, I don't know who she thinks she is talking to me like this. Now she's going to tell me no, because they're used to you always being the yes person or always responding a certain way. So when that happens, and this is why Shevel and I wanted to create this wellness happy hour, is you need to have then new support systems that can help you on this new path that you want of healing. Because sometimes if we don't feel supported, we can easily find ourselves going back into old habits, because there we have the people that our comfort zone, right? Even though we may not like it, it's still our comfort zone. So this is why we're going to be doing this monthly happy hour, and also, as Shevel said, providing takeaways for you all, so that way you can continue to do the work even after the happy hour, and hopefully you'll come back next month. So what we also want, do we want to talk about side piece, or with time, should I just go right into?
Yeah, we can have a side piece. You all know what a side piece is, right?
We were thinking, like, how do we talk about, do we come out and say side piece, or do we talk, like, how do, what term do we were just like, let's do side piece?
You know, you can use a lot of terms, or I think the most appropriate would be side pieces or side chick, side dude. Did you want to talk about that, Kai?
Yeah, so this is the person who prefers really not to be in a committed relationship, but pursues people that are in committed relationships. So she or he sees somebody that is with their significant other. Maybe they see the ring or something, and it's kind of like, ooh, challenge. In their head, this person is available. The ring means you are available. So they're like, oh, hey, how are you? So this is a person that for some reason they feel more comfortable playing a role of someone that is a side piece, right? Someone that doesn't want to be in a relationship with a person that is, they're in a relationship with someone they're both committed to each other. And sometimes this person, if they do get into a committed relationship, they will self-sabotage that relationship. So that could mean they'll do things to try to cause friction. It may mean they'll cheat. They may cheat throughout the course of the relationship. So for that, it's easy to look at that person and say, oh my God, this person is like, why would you do that? But if you look at the deeper reason, again, getting to the root cause, what happened in this person's child? Did something traumatic happen in their childhood that told them that, no, you don't have enough value, you don't have enough worth that to be in a loving, fulfilling relationship. Instead, you should just be someone on the side that they deal with, right? That could be a way that this person kind of views themselves, maybe not really understanding it, but maybe on a deeper level, that's something that could be going on. Shevel, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I think almost like the side piece and abandonment and fear of commitment all kind of go together, because, maybe you find it a thrill to seek that person that's in a committed relationship, and like, I can pull this person, or whatever's going through your mind. But like I said, it's almost like the self-fulfilling prophecy. You have that fear of abandonment. Some people always abandon you. Do these people seek this unhealthy relationship to prove to themselves that, see, you didn't really love me, you didn't really want to be with me, you abandoned me like the rest of them, or fear of a commitment, like if you seek these individuals in committed relationships and you're the side person, they may never really commit to you. And if they really never commit, I mean, it's like a bad dream. It's like a cycle that goes on. And, you wonder, okay, where is this coming from? It's something that is almost like that, like I said, that wound, something occurred that is making you go through life in this unhealthy way, unhealthy relationship. And I say this because, think about it. Something I always said when in my team meetings when I was doing counseling is that everybody want to be happy. I have never met a person in my life that ever told me they don't want to be happy. right? We all want to be happy. And I think sometimes we have different paths and different journeys to get to that happiness, but we also have obstacles. And these emotional traumas in our life can be the obstacle. And when we never really address the obstacle, or we think we can go around it, it manifests itself into other things like phobias, like fears, like bad relationship, not feeling confident, feeling left out. I mean, all of these things. I give you here's a small one for me. I almost drowned when I was 5. And I have a fear of water. Now I do take showers. I have a fear of being in a pool. And I get this, and I'm fine talking about it until I go to the pool with my child, or I'm going to cross a bridge. I had a panic attack one time crossing a bridge in New Jersey. So this is something, it was never addressed. Like, my dad pulled me out the pool and told me, not to go back in that side, but it was never addressed. So I always have this fear, and I never dealt with it. And here I am as an adult, I still have this fear. And it's to the point that when I took my son to swim lessons, my fear start manifesting itself, the energy, into him. And the swimming instructor, which was quite embarrassing, said to me, "Can someone else bring him to bring him in the pool, because your fear is coming off on him."
Yeah.
So my son was fearful of the water, not because he had a bad experience. It's because I don't even know what I did, but it was my energy. And she noticed it, and I did not realize it. So I had to have my husband take him. So a lot of times, even the trauma we have, sometimes we can pick up our parents' trauma because they never dealt with it, and it can manifest in us, and then we're carrying it. But that's a whole nother issue we can talk about at another time. Anything else you want to add to that? And we can, because it's 7:49 and we got other stuff to go through.
Yes.
I don't want to.
So we can move to the healing part, unless anybody has any questions. I think you did a great job with laying that out. Does anybody have anything to add before we kind of move closer to our takeaways? We have one question.
I just wanted to say something real quickly about the side piece. Okay. A couple of things. One is that I'm married, and so one of the things that my husband and I have committed to is that divorce is not an option. And so we both believe very strongly that whatever's going on in our marriage, you can't fix going outside of the marriage. We both believe that wholeheartedly. And one of the things that I found in working with other couples is that there's always a point of entry when a side piece is allowed to come in. There's always a point of entry. And so usually it is like Shevel and Kai covered about, whatever the motivation is for the side piece, they have a fear of commitment or what have you. However, if needs are not being met in the relationship and it's not communicated, that is a huge port of entry for a side piece to come in, because it satisfies on both ends. The individual in the relationship that's not getting their needs met, that's not communicating that. So it opens up this gaping hole for some available side piece to come in and fulfill that need, and of course it fulfills the need of the side piece because they don't want to commit anyway, be it male or female. And I think that there is a lot of unhealthy abandonment, lack of commitment, fear, and all of that that's going on both ends. And so, I think that, this is great stuff. I'm glad to be here tonight. I particularly like the topic. I thought that was very good, very interesting. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think you raised a good point to have that communication relationships are so, so important. And again, if we all, as we opened up saying, we all grew up, right? So at one point we're all children, we grew up. So if there is an issue with communication, maybe it's like, well, I don't like to communicate. I find it hard to communicate with my partner. I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to express certain things to my partner. So all of these things are so important for us to deal with, maybe through therapy, maybe, you know, through going to someone who is professional that can help you work through those things. I'm kind of getting into the next the next part, but it's so key to do that. So you want to kind of nip things in the bud early on, before they get to be a much larger issue, where you can have someone that possibly steps out because maybe their needs are not getting fulfilled in the relationship.
Right.
Or there's a commitment issue. So maybe it could be like, oh my God, I'm in this relationship, I'm committed now, and they're freaked out about it because they have abandonment issues. So their way of dealing with it is to step out. So that's why it's important to really talk to your partner, know who you're dating, know who you are going to build a life with, because you want to be able to start to work through those things.
And one more thing, just really, really quickly, that I wanted to say, I forgot. In working with couples, and I've asked, you know, each one of them, like, you know, on both ends, like men, you know, like, well, why did you cheat? Well, you know, she never listened to me. You know, she never listened. It was always communication. And thinking that I'm going to hear a different answer from the woman, nope, he never listened to me. You know, we never communicate. So exactly, communication is definitely key.
It's so true. And when you do communicate, and this is something that Shirley had said as far as being heard, it can leave you feeling vulnerable, right? Because it's like you can put you in a very vulnerable state which can make you feel uncomfortable. And then talking about those childhood wounds, it could bring you right back to that place that you were wounded as a child when you were in a space of vulnerability and you were injured. And it can, you know, you can be a grown, however aged person and be taken right back to that place. So the fear of going through that pain again is so great that it's like, it's just easier for me to shut down. But as we talked about, it's not healthy for you as a person to carry all of that within you, but also, of course, in relationship. Shevel, anything you want to add before we go to the healing?
No, I think you guys hit it. I mean, communication is the key, you know. I mean, people are not going to know how you feel unless you verbalize it. And, you know, I think today we can be very creative because some people may not feel comfortable talking face to face, whatever that may be. You can write a letter, you know what I mean? You can text, you know what I mean? But you want to be able to get your message across. And if you feel disregarded when you share how you feel, I think it's important to share that with your partner. You know, when I do tell you this is how I feel, because they may not even realize how they make you feel, you know, or they may, I don't know, but you don't know unless you have that conversation. So communication is very important.
Yes. And so I just want to say this. This is what I used to do back in my passive aggressive days. When Shevel said communicate, remind me of this is what I used to communicate with an ex. Oh, so you want to play games? Let me go on Facebook. So the post, it wouldn't be obvious to the person looking at the post, but he knew what the post was about. And I immediately would get a call. And then I'd be like, to voicemail, you know, so that unhealthy way of dealing, that is not how you communicate with anybody. And I would do that because I knew the person would get upset. So it's like poking the bear. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna just, okay, we doing this. So I take it to Facebook. And I had to learn that is not the way you communicate in a relationship. So I had to reel all that in. I had to relearn a lot and change a lot of behavior. So that goes into our healing part. And I'll go through this quickly so we can kind of close sort of on time. So these are a couple of things that I just want to go through, and then Shevel, if you want to expound upon any of them. So first, as we've said, acknowledge that something is going on, and that's something that everyone has either stated something or wrote a comment or something. You have all acknowledged that there may be some issue. How do I address it? And that is the first step, is you beginning to see, okay, there is something here. And the beautiful thing about it is when you do acknowledge that, you do have the power to make changes. And again, it's incremental changes. It's not all at once. That's one thing, for example, for eating healthy, I used to like throw out all the food and then get only healthy food. Then I'd be sitting there mad at myself because now I want something sweet and all I have is like non-sweet options. So do incremental changes, because this is about a lifestyle change. It's not just about trying to make like a quick fix, like a quick diet type of thing. This is a lifestyle change, which we've had patterns until we got to this age. So to break them is not going to happen overnight. So always extend grace to yourself for that. Two, Shevel and I have validate the emotional wounds and the pain that you feel. This is beautiful to, acknowledge how you're feeling, speak how you're feeling. It's okay. Yes, it may make you feel vulnerable, but keeping all of that internalizing everything that you're going through is not healthy. And not only will it show up emotionally, but also physically. You may end up with high blood pressure, heart disease, different types of cancers sometimes happen because of emotions that are buried deep within the body. So it can also affect your physical health. Then we also said healing emotional wounds without judgment. Again, not looking at yourself and being angry with yourself, but seeing, okay, I can change, I can grow. And this is what self-care looks like. I like that's one thing that Shevel said, make sure that is self-care. And also some things that might help: going to therapy, not just calling up the girlfriends or whatever, like no, seeking a therapist, one that you can really connect with. And then last but not least is the Goldilocks Zone. So the Goldilocks Zone, this is my nerdy side. So this is that area in space where we are, where it's not too hot, not too cold, but it's perfect to allow for growth to happen, right? So we have Earth, and we are located in an area close to this, further, not too close to the sun and not too far away, in which we are able to live on this beautiful planet and life can exist. So you want to make sure that as you move through your day, as you move through your world, that you are kind of in that zone that is healthy, where where really life, abundance can exist. And so with that being said, I'll throw it back over to Shevel.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I share, I always say I'm an open book, because I learn a lot about myself, listening to other people, and also my friends and family to tell me what things that I need to work on. Because again, there's some things, if I've done this for so long, I don't realize it. And once I acknowledge it, now I have the power to change it and to work on it. And, and there's times that I've gone to counseling, there's nothing wrong with it. I used to tell my patients, if I was the president, the first executive order I would sign is making everyone in the United States go to counseling once a week. So maybe you're glad that I'm not the president, which I don't want to be. But if I was, I would do that, because counseling is good.
Vote.
Oh, you would vote for me?
Got my vote.
Okay. So, but I think it's okay that, sometimes you can do, some self-healing on your own, reading books and everything, but it's okay that some wounds are real deep, especially if you've never even thought about it and you start thinking about it. And I think in therapy, they can break it down and give you little piece by piece by piece to work on, so you become a stronger person, and then you turn into a new person. So one of the things I want to end on, is look at this is sometimes people look at being vulnerable as weak, and it's not. So what I want to end on, and I wrote it down so I make sure I say it correctly. Please remember the inner child healing is a source of strength and the development is your self-discovery. So just know that, don't be upset with yourself. The more you working on yourself, that's a sense of strength. And that's the power in it. Because when you know better, you do better and you feel better. And that's the whole purpose of us doing this, is that I want everybody to be happy. We want you to move forward and achieve all the things you want in your life and remove those obstacles. And some things need to take more time than others, but to keep working on yourself. And that's a sense of strength. So after this event, what you will receive is a wellness happy hour 5-step to healing your inner child. It's something that I put together that I think it could be helpful for you to work on. And I, applaud you on your journey, and I hope that I see you next month. I know, Kai, you have something to add to this.
Yeah, so I am, so next month we'll have our next wellness happy hour. So please make sure you mark your calendars for that. The Eventbrite, we can also send that along when we send out the 5 steps, so you can have that. So next month, we're going to be talking about self-care during COVID-19. So this is something that I'm sure everyone would probably has an interest in, especially now some of our children are going back to school. So it's like, how am I dealing with that? So there's a lot of different stressors that are going on. So we're going to be talking about how you can maintain your self-care during situations such as this. So that's going to be on September 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll make sure that we send that out along with the 5 steps. So I guess before we close, does anybody have any questions or last comments? No?
I like someone said, like Kendrick Lamar, is in my DNA. Yeah, but the beauty about this, you can change. You can't change your DNA, but you can change yourself and be a better self. So, but I do like Kendrick Lamar.
I do too. I do too. So if no one has anything else, then hopefully we will see you at the next Wellness Virtual Happy Hour. It was such a pleasure. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you soon.
Yes. Good night. Good night.
Have a good night.
Ladies, I'm gonna head home.
Okay.
I'll text you when I get home from my office.
Okay, good. You have a good night and have a safe trip.
All right, thank you.